Morning. You're listening to Hospice of the Calumet area. This is WJOB AM 1230 and 104.7. I'm Craig Harrell. I'm with Hospice of the Calumet area. We do this show about once a month, but we haven't been on for probably a month and a half, 2 months since I think the
holidays.
Yeah, November. So we're kind of getting back into the swing of things here. We've got a special guest today. One of our programs, our pilot programs, is transitions, and if you're not familiar with that or have heard about it and want to learn more about it, we're interviewing Laurie Yothment this morning. Hi, Laurie.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning to you, too. As always, we're going to go over some housekeeping things with some announcements coming up. As always, you can either watch us via Facebook live stream right now, or if you want to catch us at a later date, you can link on to our Hospice Calumet area Facebook and watch us. We get anywhere from 300 to 1,000 views afterwards, so it's kind of nice to see, but it's a good reference point to go back and readdress some of the things that you might have missed. So Jen Vargo is our Director of Development. Good morning, Jen.
Good morning.
And Jen, what did you tell us about what's coming up with Hospice of the Calumet area right now?
We have some really exciting activities coming up here. In February, where the Friends of Hospice are hosting their third fashion show, Friends in Fashion. It's a style show and luncheon. It'll be held on Sunday, February 19th. At the Center for Visual and Performing Arts from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., and that's located at 1040 West Ridge Road in Munster. We have a lot of new and exciting features of the show this year. We've changed it up a little bit, and the clothing will be modeled by our hospice nurses and volunteers, as well as Friends of Hospice members, and that will be provided by LuLaRoe, which is a clothing company that many women serve as consultants and have different types of pop-up boutique parties and whatnot. And I guess it's all the rage. They're known for their leggings.
Yes, it is the rage.
It is the rage right now.
It's cool that we're going to see our hospice nurses and staff and modeling.
Just all decked out, doing something different than their day-to-day grind. This gives them a chance to be pampered by Vanis Salon and Day Spa. Once again, Chris and Liz Valvanis are donating their spa services, or their salon services. A number of their team of stylists and makeup artists are donating their time, and they're giving all the models a free consult before the show, hair and makeup.
That's awesome.
And then the day of the show, they open up the salon for us. It's on a Sunday, and they do all the hair and makeup for the show. They're a great asset and wonderful supporters. And then also new this year, we have Whole Foods Market that is sponsoring the wine and cheese reception. They'll be putting together a wonderful cheese spread, and they'll be on hand if you have any questions. They're a new business in the area, and we welcome them to join us. We're really excited that they're going to be part of it. And we're switching it up even more. Instead of a DJ this year, we're going to have live music performed by Angelo Chico. He's a local musician in the area. He does some pretty extraordinary things with his guitar, and we're really excited that he'll be there with us. So the boutique shopping starts at 11 a.m. The lunch will be served at 12:30, and our Friends of Hospice member Cindy Rosinski is our MC. Once again, she does a fantastic job, and what a great value. Tickets are only $40 per person, and if you wish to purchase a table of 10, that's $400. So you can visit hospicefriendsinfashion.eventbrite.com to buy your tickets online, or you can call our Hospice of the Calumet area office at 219-922-2732. Also coming up in the month of March is our Hospice of the Calumet area volunteer training. This is a patient companion training, but we really like all of our volunteers to participate in this training. It's a 2-day training. It starts on Saturday, March 4th, and then again, we have another full day of training Saturday, March 11th. All of our volunteers have 17 hours of training in order to get started, and then they do in-services throughout the year, so they're really well-trained and a great asset to our program. We're always looking for individuals who can spend time with our patients, provide respite breaks to our caregivers, or even lend a hand in the office. Bilingual volunteers are always needed, Spanish and Polish speaking volunteers. And we even have canine companions that go and visit our families and our patients and caregivers. So if you're interested, please contact Cynthia Camp at our hospice office, 219-922-2732, or you can email her at ccamp@hospicecalumet.org. And then lastly, something new we're really excited about. The Legacy Foundation has awarded us a Transforming Lake County Award. And this is a special grant program that they provide funding to organizations that have a special program that really is helping to shape and improve the Lake County for the residents and for those in need. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But this year, our Transitions program has received $5,000 for this pre-hospice palliative program. So we'll talk more as we introduce Laurie and learn more about the Transitions program.
What great timing. Figure out how that works out. We have... and by the way, thank you, Jen, for doing such a great job on that grant proposal and helping us get the funds. If you're not familiar with what Jen does, we'll go into a little bit more later, but she's the one that, as a director of development, is really focused on trying to bring dollars into our program that allows us to be able to provide the high quality of care. One of the things we're focusing on this year with hospice of the Calumet area is what do we do above and beyond what other hospices do. And one of the things that makes us different is that we're not for profit. And there are for-profit hospices and there are not-for-profit hospices in the area. But one of the things that allows us to do as a not-for-profit is we can go out and we can raise funds to help provide for programs that normally wouldn't be provided because they're trying to get by on the minimum. We're able to go a little bit above and beyond, not a little bit, a lot above and beyond. And one of the things that we include in that is our Transitions program. So welcome, Laurie.
Good morning again.
Good morning again.
Glad to be here.
Yeah.
And very thankful to the Legacy Foundation for recognizing this amazing program.
Yeah, we're going to be releasing some more publicity about that and kind of what that entails. But for those of us that may not be familiar with the Transitions program, why don't you kind of give us a brief synopsis of what it is and what it entails?
Well, many people have not heard about the program, and we're really today trying to get that word out there. The Transitions program is really geared toward individuals and their families who are facing a life-limiting illness. They're concerned about what's out there to help them, to support them, and really the program is geared toward trying to improve the quality of life for those that are facing a life-limiting illness that may not quite be ready for hospice care. So a lot of times people will refer to Transitions as a pre-hospice per se.
So when you say not ready, you mean in their illness progression, or they're not mentally ready, or
both?
Okay.
Both.
Okay.
It's a process for a lot of folks, and Transitions for those that prognosis-wise might be appropriate for hospice care, they need more information. They're scared, they're uncertain about the future. Many times there's misconceptions about exactly what hospice is all about, and Transitions tries to correct those misconceptions. And then those that prognosis-wise may not quite be appropriate, but they do have a life-limiting illness, they're also concerned about the future. And what we try to do in Transitions is talk to them, give these families and individuals the time of day to hear what's going on, what they want, how do they see the rest of their life, where do they want to be cared for.
Okay, so let's remind people that in order to be in hospice, you have to be, there's really only three criteria to be in hospice. One is that you have to have a life-limiting illness with a prognosis of 6 months or less, which means if the disease takes its normal progression,
right,
it is quite possible that the patient will die within the 6 months. You have to forego active curative treatment, and you have to be on board with the hospice philosophy. Now, that 6 month needs to be certified by a physician.
That's correct.
So how is Transitions different from that?
Well, Transitions clients, number one, there is not a physician order that is needed.
Okay, so that's number one. You don't need a physician order.
Somebody can call into the office and ask some questions, and it's determined that they're not quite appropriate for hospice care. Those phone calls many times go to Transitions to find out what is going on. A lot of the folks in transitions have been diagnosed with a new illness, or they're experiencing symptoms of a life-limiting illness. They're experiencing new symptoms. So number one, a transitions client, we're looking at the possibility of 12 months to 24 months. They can go back to the hospital. They can be seeking curative treatment.
Okay, so they can be going through
aggressive
treatment at the same time, which you can't be doing, and it falls outside that 6-month period.
It does. Some transitions clients, unfortunately, their illness takes a different course, and hospice becomes appropriate a little bit sooner. But the goal of transitions is to explain all options that are available for individuals, just to walk this journey with them and making sure that we are doing our very best to honor what their medical wishes are, respect their medical wishes, help them put their medical wishes in writing. Many people do not have something called an advance directive. So that's really a good start in conversation about end of life. Let's talk about what your medical wishes are, and trying to find a effective way to open up the door for that conversation, to be able to talk about what everybody's thinking in families, but not necessarily verbalizing. And that's really what the program tries to do, to get people talking.
This program isn't anything new. We've been doing this for,
15, 16 years, yes.
One of the ways it actually became, we started doing this was, I had done a presentation for an Amico annuitants group, and afterwards I had a gentleman come up to me and said, we're struggling with my mother-in-law. She is Alzheimer's. She has Alzheimer's. We're caregivers for her. And I explained the criteria. You have to be 6 months or less. So I said, what's the prognosis for your mother-in-law? And he said, she's as strong as a horse. She can go on for years. And it was really putting a lot of strain on their marriage. The mother-in-law was starting to get aggressive. To be honest with him, I told him, I said, really, there's nothing, if it doesn't fall in that criteria of hospice, there's nothing we can do. And that was a great case of somebody falling through the cracks. I mean, somebody that needed help.
Absolutely.
And so I came back and we started discussing it. And about that time is when we became known for that, became aware of the transitions program. Mm-hmm. So why don't you explain a little bit about your background, not only in your career, but also with hospice in the Calumet area? How many years have you been with hospice in the Calumet area? Off
and on for probably 20 years, a little bit better than 20 years. As a social worker, my first job was as the first oncology social worker at a local hospital. And then after that, that's how I became aware of hospice of the Calumet area. Began working with them and another home care agency, going into people's homes, and just really felt a calling to end-of-life care. That is where I was supposed to be. I worked with hospice patients at Hospice of the Calumet area for a long time. I was the initial person that families and patients would meet to discuss hospice care.
So you go out and do family visits?
I did family meetings to make sure that they understood what it was all about, what hospice care, Hospice of the Calumet was all about.
So you haven't. By the way, if anybody wants to ask a question or anything, they can feel free to call in at 845-1100, and we'll be sure to take their call. So kind of explain to us what the difference between hospice and transitions is, kind of a side-by-side comparison.
Sure. Well, with hospice, you have the possibility of a life expectancy of 6 months or less that is documented by a physician, that a doctor is willing to certify that. Now, I just wanted to elaborate a little bit on that, because with your Alzheimer's dementia patients, as a good example, it's real hard to pinpoint the trajectory of their illness. So many times a Alzheimer's dementia patient that the family or that patient's medical wishes has designated they don't want extraordinary or aggressive measures, and the family wants to try to honor that. But these patients, they're changing little by little by little. They may go beyond that 6 months criteria.
And then we kick them out.
And no, hospice is able to continue to provide that care. So one of the goals of transitions is to recognize those families, those patients, to try to get them hospice services sooner rather than later. Because as we all know, many times what we hear in the hospice world is they wish they would have had our services sooner. So I just wanted to
that continues to be our number one comment.
So the other difference, you have your possibility of 6 months life expectancy with hospice care. With transitions, we're talking usually, you could say 6 months to 24 months possibility of a life expectancy. But again, in that, there's clients that are in the transitions program that have been in the program since 2013. The important thing is that there was that possibility, but people are doing well. They've gotten the needed resources in place to help them live the best that they can the rest of their life.
So I think it's important to note too the resources that you also bring to the families that you visit or the individual. Oftentimes, you'll find somebody living on their own that you can help line up some resources to help build their quality of life. Exactly.
Many of the people that transitions gets involved with really do not know where to turn. So when you sit down and you talk to these families, number one, explore what their medical wishes are. Make sure that that I understand that. And then the second thing, what we need help in is Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we need bath assistance. Where do you turn? So what the transitions program attempts to do is put some resources in place, locate resources to help these families to honor what their medical wishes are if they want to stay in their own home. If this person that's living alone, it's impossible to stay in their own home, what other types of environments could they go to receive the care that they want?
I love to explain, when I go out and do presentations, people ask about transitions, and I say, Laurie is the hub of the wheel. So you think of, here's a resource, and then you're putting out here's where you go for this, or here's where you go for that. Here's where we can line you up for meals, or whatever what they need. You're trying to be the resource person for those patients and families.
Yes, that's exactly what I attempt to do. People really, many times, they just don't know what's out there that they can get help from. The veterans benefit, the aid and attendance benefit. Many widows of a veteran don't realize that they also could be receiving that benefit, which can help pay for caregivers.
Yeah.
Northwest Indiana Department of Aging, utilizing their resources to get some extra help in the home. Alternative living to assisted living facilities, transportation.
Yeah, all that.
There's a lot of resources out there that the township, there's resources that people just are not aware of or don't think that they're eligible for. So what the transitions program really tries to do is not set people up send them on wild goose chases. Yeah. What I try to do is make sure that this is a resource that I'm pretty certain that they're going to be able to avail themselves to if they follow through the procedures. Just reiterating, with hospice services, we know that you have a registered nurse. We know you have a certified nurse's aide, a social worker, a spiritual support person, the volunteers, the massage therapists, the therapy dogs, and that's hospice of the Calumet area services.
So what do you get with transitions?
With transitions, really what you get is the coordinator. You get a social worker. That happens to be myself.
That's you.
Happens to me. And a trained volunteer when appropriate and when it's needed.
That's important.
It is important. They can provide respite for up to 3 hours a week, which is 1 day a week, up to 3 hours, and it is so helpful. Many of my clients are zapped because of the treatment that they're getting, because of the chemotherapy treatments, and they live alone to boot, and they don't have the ability, that one warm, hot, home cooked meal a week would really help them out, would make them aid their quality of life. So to be able to have a trained volunteer to go in there and do that, do the grocery shopping, prepare their meal, clean up the meal, provide some companionship and some conversation, that's so valuable.
It's interesting when we were talking, Jim was talking about volunteer training coming up.
Right.
And most people don't realize that we co-train our volunteers not only for hospice, but also for transitions. And the purpose behind that is that if somebody comes into us in the transitions program and they become familiar with their volunteer, and they develop a relationship with that person, from having them come in, a friendship. They don't have to leave that volunteer in order to come into hospice, correct?
That's correct.
So
Their
that volunteer
volunteer
will
will
follow them.
That volunteer follows them.
Where you won't, but
No,
the
I
volunteer
don't.
will.
Correct. And that's extraordinary. That relationship that develops is very meaningful to the individual and to the family.
Yeah.
The families are very appreciative. You have families that live out of town that know that their loved one has the support of transitions and has a volunteer. Because when I go out, when transitions goes out, we do the initial visit, and that usually is about an hour and a half visit, just trying to get to know each other. And then it's the follow-up after that. Those individuals and families, it's not a one-time visit. These families and clients now are being contacted on a regular basis to make sure that things are continuing to go okay, to ask questions, to see if there's been any changes. And families, they will, and clients, they will call the program. They will call transitions and say, hey, Laurie, this is what's going on. I think I'd like you to come back out and visit. And the program, we're able to do that. So it's ongoing support. It's not a one-time visit.
So I know one of the things that you're probably able to help do is kind of be another set of eyes on the patient. And I know when caregivers are going through this, and the patient themselves are going through this whole tornado of information being thrown at them medically, can you kind of help identify where they are in that spectrum of the illness progression?
Yes, absolutely. It's helping individuals and the families to decipher the medical information that they're getting, attempting to help people to read between the lines, and spending the time to really listen and answer their questions and concerns. Many times physicians, they have a 15-minute block of time, and there's 4 people that are slated for that 15-minute block of time. And it's hard a lot of times for patients and families to just have elaboration on their questions. Yeah. Let's elaborate.
That's a polite way to put it.
Yeah, to be able to elaborate and, to have somebody listen, when your lab work looks good, but the next thing you're hearing is hospice care. That's really scary territory for people. How could that be? My lab work, Yeah. So just trying to help muddle through that type of information is what Transitions tries to do. And people are resilient. People are, clients are intelligent. Many times these clients and families just need help with the wording that's being used with them.
Yeah.
And that's what we try to do. It's very overwhelming.
So, okay, so you get you as a licensed clinical social worker.
Yes.
You get a volunteer. So how much does this cost for patients?
That's kind of the one of the really coolest things about the program, and why I just love what I do. There is no cost for the program.
Really?
For the client.
For the client. The client. There is no cost to the client. This information, this ongoing support, resources, there is no cost. Hospice of the Calumet area being nonprofit.
Right.
Well, let's jump over, Jen.
Yes.
Since this is kind of your forte about the monies that come in and how what we do with them, why don't you go into a little bit about specifically the legacy grant but kind of how the transitions.
Absolutely. Well, one thing to point out too is that our transitions program I'm not sure if we still are, but we were the only one in the state of Indiana.
I think we're at least the only one north of Indianapolis.
Okay. So there's a lot of need, and Laurie's very, very busy. She's the only social worker that we have right now that focuses on transitions solely. And the program, Hospice of the Calumet area covers the program, and we rely on private donations to keep this program going. This isn't something that we can bill insurance for. Our clients are not hospice patients, so that's not something that we can do. So what we do is we rely on the support of our donors. Each year we do a holiday campaign, a year-end giving campaign, and our loyal donors provide donations, and a portion of that does go to the transitions program. But now what we're really doing is we're branching out and we're seeking funds and the support from local foundations. And our first foundation that stepped up to give us that support was the Legacy Foundation. We went through a proposal process, and we really explained why we thought that our program, the Transitions Program, was helping to change the lives and transform lives of individuals in Lake County, Indiana. And they thought so too. So they awarded us a $5,000 grant, and they've helped us improve our marketing materials so we can reach out to more individuals, and they're helping to pay for Laurie's time and her transportation costs. So she drives around all day long.
I do get around.
So it takes gas and mileage, and we really appreciate the support, and we're hoping that we can extend this even further so we can help more individuals and cover the program. I don't want to say comfortably, but know that we have the local support that we need to make sure that this program doesn't go away.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you cover Lake, Porter, and bordering Illinois communities just like Hospice the Calumet area does?
Same area.
Last year in 2016, how many patients did you care for in your transitions program, just approximately?
Over 200.
Yeah, it was well over 200.
So one person... 200
touch the lives
touches.
of over 200 people,
and following them
and continue to follow.
Now, one of the things that we've noticed is that it's easier for some medical referral sources to say, why don't you go see transitions when they're really kind of hospice appropriate? So I know one thing that you do is that you will have an honest conversation with these patients and families.
I do, and I try to educate the referral sources too. A lot of they're wonderful. The home care agencies that realize they've reached an end to the services that they're able to provide, and that this person possibly is entering those latter stages of life, and they will request that I go out and meet with these families. And it's again. First, sitting down, taking the time to find out what it is that they want. What do their advance directives say?
Many times they've never been asked that.
Many times. And some do not have the advance directives. So it's a good place to start again. So we complete the advance directives, and then we talk about options of care, continuing to pursue some type of aggressive medical intervention, or possibly let's talk a little bit about hospice. What do you know about hospice? That doesn't necessarily, with every transitions client I see, that's not necessarily the first thing that we talk about, but it's an important part of life, is what your end of life, how do you envision your end of life?
They're going to go through it whether it's with hospice or not.
Exactly.
And it's kind of, would you want the support and the medical care, and because hospice is a medical alternative to being in a hospital. And one of the things that we've noticed when we talk to people in the community is that the majority of the people don't want to be in a hospital.
Most want to pass away at home, and they just want to go to sleep.
That would be ideally.
That's the ideal way.
Yeah.
So, we talk about those wishes and really listen to their story, because if you listen to an individual story, you gather so much information and are able to help direct them and guide them through this. And really, it's like the weight of the world is off their shoulders. Once they verbalize what their wishes are and they put it out there, then you get on with the task of living your life every day.
And that's what we're about, cherishing life.
That's right.
As a summation, kind of go back over, we've been talking to Laurie Yothment, the transitions coordinator of our transitions program. If they need to contact you, they contact Hospice of the Calumet area?
Contact Hospice of the Calumet area, 922-2732, and ask for Laurie in Transitions.
If you're in Illinois, that's 708-895-8332. If you want to learn more about our program, feel free to visit our website. It's hospicecalumet.org. You'll see some drop-down tabs, and it's how we help. click on that and go to the transitions program, and you can actually download the brochure that Laurie would be handing to you otherwise if she comes out and sees you. So just thank you again to Legacy Foundation. We've got the Friends in Fashion coming up here on February 19th. Don't forget about that. Mark that. $40 is a great value for entertainment, style show, lunch, boutique, the whole shot. And I tell you what, it has become one of the most popular events of our year. Stay tuned for Edison Community Watch. It's up next. We thank you again, Hospice of the Calumet area, and we'll be talking to you next.